The wrestling world just got turned upside down and everyone is talking about what Nick Aldis just dropped on us about CM Punk's mystery attacker. Before we dive into this explosive revelation that's going to change everything you thought you knew about this entire saga, make sure you hit that subscribe button because you don't want to miss a single update on this developing story. What started as one of the most controversial moments in recent wrestling history has now taken a turn that nobody saw coming, and the implications are massive for everyone involved. CM Punk's return to WWE after his highly publicized departure from AEW was supposed to be a fresh start for the Second City Saint. The man who left professional wrestling on incredibly bitter terms was back and fans were ready to move forward. But then came that fateful night when everything changed. Punk was found laid out backstage, unconscious and unable to compete in what was supposed to be a huge match. The attack sent shockwaves through the entire wrestling community and speculation ran wild about who could have been behind such a cowardly assault. Was it someone from his past? Was it a current roster member with a grudge? The questions kept piling up and WWE seemed content to let the mystery simmer while fans debated endlessly on social media about potential suspects. Nick Aldis, the SmackDown general manager, has been at the center of this investigation since day one. The former NWA World Heavyweight Champion has taken his managerial duties seriously and promised to get to the bottom of what happened to CM Punk. Week after week, Aldis appeared on television assuring the WWE Universe that he was following every lead and interviewing every possible suspect. The investigation became a central storyline on SmackDown, with multiple superstars being questioned and various theories being floated. Some fans thought it might be Drew McIntyre, given his recent issues with Punk. Others suspected it could be Seth Rollins, considering their complicated history. There were even wild theories about it being someone from Punk's AEW past who had somehow infiltrated WWE to exact revenge. The tension built with each passing week as Aldis continued his investigation. Security footage was reviewed. Witnesses were interviewed. The backstage area was combed for clues. Every detail was scrutinized as WWE played up the mystery angle. Punk himself, once he recovered from the attack, was vocal about wanting answers and demanding justice. He cut promos about how someone had tried to take away his opportunity and how he wouldn't rest until the culprit was exposed. The whole situation created an atmosphere of suspicion and mistrust among the roster, with everyone seemingly being a potential suspect. Then came the bombshell announcement that Nick Aldis would be revealing the identity of CM Punk's attacker on this week's episode of SmackDown. The promotion for this revelation was intense, with WWE pulling out all the stops to build anticipation. Social media was flooded with speculation as fans tried to predict who it would be. The betting odds shifted daily as different names rose and fell in likelihood. Some thought it would be a shocking return of a former superstar. Others believed it might be a current roster member turning heel in dramatic fashion. The possibilities seemed endless and the wrestling world held its collective breath, waiting for the truth to finally come out. When Nick Aldis finally stood in that ring on SmackDown with a microphone in hand and the entire WWE Universe watching, you could feel the electricity in the arena. He recapped the investigation and talked about how thorough the process had been. He mentioned interviewing dozens of superstars and reviewing countless hours of footage. He spoke about the pressure he felt to solve this case and bring justice to CM Punk. The crowd hung on his every word as he slowly built to the big reveal. And then he said the name that nobody expected to hear. The attacker was revealed to be someone who had been hiding in plain sight the entire time, someone whose motive made perfect sense once you thought about it, but who had flown completely under the radar during the entire investigation. The revelation sent the arena into chaos. Fans couldn't believe what they were hearing. Social media exploded with reactions ranging from shock to anger to admiration for the twist. The person Aldis named had been involved in several segments during the investigation but had never seemed like a serious suspect. They had played their role perfectly, deflecting suspicion and appearing just as confused and concerned as everyone else. It was a masterclass in deception, and the payoff was enormous when the truth finally came out. The reasoning behind the attack was equally surprising, rooted in a grievance that went back further than most people realized and connected to events that had seemed unrelated at the time. CM Punk's reaction to the revelation was immediate and visceral. The moment the name was spoken, Punk charged to the ring ready for confrontation. The attacker, now exposed, didn't run or hide. Instead, they embraced their villainy and cut a promo explaining exactly why they did what they did. The explanation revealed layers of resentment and planning that had been building for months. It wasn't a spontaneous attack born of momentary anger, but rather a calculated strike designed to maximum impact. The attacker had waited for the perfect moment when Punk was most vulnerable and most confident in his WWE return. They had studied his patterns and routines, learning when and where he would be alone backstage. The level of premeditation was chilling and added a whole new dimension to the storyline. The confrontation between Punk and his attacker became physical quickly as security tried to separate them. Both superstars got in shots before being pulled apart, with Punk screaming about getting his hands on the person who had ambushed him. The attacker smiled through it all, clearly satisfied that their plan had worked exactly as intended. Nick Aldis tried to restore order, but the situation was spiraling out of control. Other superstars rushed to the scene, some supporting Punk and others seemingly aligned with the attacker. The divisions that had been forming during the investigation suddenly became crystal clear as battle lines were drawn. What makes this revelation even more significant is the ripple effect it's going to have across the entire WWE landscape. The attacker wasn't working alone, and there are clear indications that others knew about the plan or were even involved in its execution. Nick Aldis hinted at this during his announcement, suggesting that his investigation had uncovered a conspiracy that went deeper than just one person. This opens up storyline possibilities that could play out for months to come. Who else was involved? How high does this conspiracy go? Are there people in positions of authority within WWE who knew what was going to happen and allowed it to occur? These questions are now at the forefront of everyone's mind. The motive behind the attack is rooted in professional jealousy and perceived injustice. The attacker felt that CM Punk had been given opportunities that should have gone to others, that his return was undeserved given how he had left the business. They saw Punk as someone who burned bridges only to be welcomed back with open arms, while others who had remained loyal to WWE were overlooked. There's an argument to be made that the attacker has a point, that WWE did roll out the red carpet for Punk despite everything that had happened. But taking matters into their own hands through a backstage assault crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. The attacker doesn't see it that way though. In their mind, they were making a statement and standing up for everyone who had been passed over in favor of the returning star. The backstage reaction to this revelation has been mixed according to reports. Some superstars are appalled by what happened and fully support CM Punk. They believe that regardless of any professional disagreements, a physical attack from behind is cowardly and unacceptable. Others have been more ambivalent, not condoning the attack but understanding the frustration that led to it. There's a real divide forming within the locker room, and it's creating an atmosphere of tension and uncertainty. Nobody knows who to trust anymore, and everyone is watching their back. This is exactly the kind of environment that can lead to great television as alliances shift and new rivalries form organically from the situation. Nick Aldis himself has become a more prominent figure through all of this. His handling of the investigation and the way he built to the reveal has elevated his status as SmackDown general manager. He's shown that he's not just a figurehead but someone who takes his responsibilities seriously and follows through on his promises. The way he controlled the segment and delivered the news showed real authority and presence. It's clear that WWE has big plans for Aldis in his managerial role, and this storyline has been the perfect vehicle to establish him as a key player on the Blue brand. The immediate future for CM Punk now involves getting revenge on his attacker. There's no way this story ends with just a revelation and a brief confrontation. Punk is going to want a match where he can physically punish the person who attacked him. The attacker is going to want to prove that their assault wasn't a fluke and that they can beat Punk in a fair fight. The stage is set for what could be one of the most emotionally charged feuds of the year. Both competitors have real motivation and the backstory writes itself. Every punch thrown in their eventual match will carry extra weight because of what happened and the bad blood that's now boiling over. What's interesting is how this revelation affects other ongoing storylines. Drew McIntyre, who had been a prime suspect and had his own issues with CM Punk, is now cleared of suspicion. Does this change the dynamic between him and Punk? Seth Rollins, another person many thought might be involved, is also in the clear. How do these superstars react to being suspected and investigated? There could be residual resentment toward Punk for the scrutiny they faced even though they were innocent. These secondary effects of the main storyline create additional layers that can be explored in the coming weeks and months. The attacker's character is going to undergo a significant transformation following this revelation. They're now fully committed to being a villain and will likely embrace the role with gusto. Their promos will be filled with justifications and explanations for their actions as they try to win over fans to their perspective. Some fans will inevitably side with the attacker, appreciating their willingness to take action against someone they perceived as undeserving. This kind of nuanced heel work where the villain has legitimate grievances can be incredibly effective when done right. It creates debate among fans and gets people invested in the outcome. The match between CM Punk and his attacker needs to be something special. A standard singles match probably won't satisfy the appetite that's been created by this storyline. WWE will likely go with a stipulation that allows for violence and brutality. A no disqualification match or a street fight would make sense given the personal nature of the feud. Maybe even something more extreme like a steel cage match to ensure that the attacker can't escape and that outside interference is minimized. Whatever the stipulation, the match needs to deliver on the promise of the story and give fans the cathartic moment of seeing Punk get his revenge or the shocking moment of the attacker proving their point by winning again. Nick Aldis will continue to play a role in how this feud develops. As SmackDown general manager, he has the authority to make matches and set stipulations. He can also use his position to help or hinder either competitor depending on how WWE wants to play it. If they want to add another layer, Aldis could be revealed to have his own agenda in all of this. Maybe he knew more than he let on during the investigation. Maybe his loyalties aren't as clear-cut as they seem. These kinds of twists keep storylines fresh and unpredictable. The reveal also raises questions about security at WWE events. How did this attack happen in the first place? Where were the cameras and security personnel who should have been monitoring backstage areas? The attacker managed to assault CM Punk without being immediately caught on camera or stopped by security. This suggests either incompetence on the part of WWE's security apparatus or potential complicity from someone in a position of authority. These questions can be addressed in future segments and used to expand the conspiracy element of the story. Fan reaction to the revelation has been overwhelmingly positive from a storytelling perspective. People are praising WWE for actually committing to the mystery and delivering a payoff that made sense within the context of the story. Too often in wrestling, these kinds of whodunit angles either drag on too long or have reveals that feel unsatisfying. This one hit the sweet spot of being just long enough to build intrigue without overstaying its welcome and having a reveal that was surprising but logical. The execution of the announcement segment was also praised, with Nick Aldis delivering his lines with appropriate gravitas and the attacker playing their role perfectly once exposed. Moving forward, there are multiple directions this story can go. The obvious path is the singles feud between Punk and his attacker culminating in a big match at an upcoming premium live event. But there's also the conspiracy angle that could involve multiple performers and create a faction warfare situation. Imagine CM Punk having to fight not just his attacker but a whole group of superstars who share the same resentment about his return. This would allow WWE to elevate multiple talents while keeping Punk in a prominent featured role. The attacker could recruit allies who feel similarly slighted by WWE's treatment of returning stars versus homegrown talent. Another interesting wrinkle is how this affects CM Punk's character going forward. He came back to WWE seemingly wanting to turn over a new leaf and be a more positive presence. But getting attacked and having to fight for respect might bring back the darker, more aggressive side of his personality that made him such a compelling performer in the first place. We might see Punk regress into the anti-hero role that he's most comfortable in, distrusting authority and taking matters into his own hands. This character evolution would feel natural given what he's been through and would give Punk more to work with than just being a happy babyface. The timing of this revelation is also significant. WWE is building towards several major events in the coming months, and this feud is now positioned to be a featured attraction at one of those shows. The company has clearly identified this as a marquee storyline worthy of premium placement on their biggest stages. That's good news for everyone involved, as it means they'll be given time and resources to tell the story properly. Too many potentially great feuds get rushed or relegated to minor shows because of poor planning or shifting priorities. This one seems to have real investment from WWE creative and management. There's also the business aspect to consider. CM Punk remains one of WWE's biggest draws and merchandise movers. The attacker is now getting pushed as a major player through association with Punk. WWE is betting that this feud will drive interest in their product both in terms of television viewership and ticket sales for live events. Early indications suggest that bet is paying off, with social media engagement spiking following the revelation and fan interest in upcoming SmackDown episodes reaching new heights. The attacker's merchandise is likely being fast-tracked for production to capitalize on their new heat as the person who took out CM Punk. The role of Paul Heyman, who has been associated with CM Punk since his return, adds another dimension. Heyman's perspective on the attack and the revelation could provide interesting television. He's someone who understands conspiracy and manipulation better than anyone, and his insights could be valuable in unpacking what happened and why. Heyman could also become a target himself if the attacker and their allies view him as an enabler of Punk's success. The wise man has a way of getting himself involved in the biggest storylines, and this seems like a natural fit for his particular skill set. Women's division stars have also been weighing in on the situation, with some drawing parallels to their own experiences feeling overlooked when big names return. This creates opportunities for cross-brand storytelling and thematic consistency across WWE's programming. When a major storyline like this resonates beyond just the individuals directly involved, it indicates that the creative has tapped into something real and relatable. The feelings of frustration and resentment that motivated the attack are emotions that many performers can identify with, which makes their reactions more genuine and the overall story more believable. Tag team divisions could be affected as well if this storyline expands into faction warfare. Established teams might find themselves choosing sides based on their own feelings about favoritism and opportunity within WWE. New alliances could form between unlikely partners who share a common cause. The attacker might recruit a tag team to serve as enforcers and protection, while CM Punk might align with teams who respect his legacy and support his right to return. This would give the tag team division something meaningful to sink their teeth into rather than just random matches with no real stakes or storylines. The NXT brand could even tie into this in interesting ways. Developmental talents might see the attacker as a hero for standing up to the establishment and taking action against someone they view as taking a spot that could go to a rising star. Conversely, NXT talents might view CM Punk as an inspiration and someone whose path they hope to emulate. These differing perspectives could create tension within NXT and lead to its own set of rivalries and storylines. WWE has gotten better at creating connectivity between brands, and this situation provides a perfect opportunity for that kind of integrated storytelling. International fans have been particularly vocal about the revelation, with reactions pouring in from all over the world. Social media trends in multiple countries show that this story has genuine global appeal. WWE's international expansion efforts benefit when they have hot storylines that transcend cultural boundaries, and a good old-fashioned revenge story is something that resonates universally. The attacker's motivations about being overlooked despite loyalty and hard work is a feeling that workers in every country and industry can relate to on some level. The commentary team's role in selling this story cannot be overlooked. Michael Cole, Corey Graves, and Wade Barrett have the responsibility of putting over the seriousness of the situation while also explaining the nuances of the attacker's motivations. Good commentary can elevate a storyline by helping viewers understand character motivations and historical context. Bad commentary can undermine even the best creative by missing important beats or focusing on the wrong elements. So far, the commentary on SmackDown has been hitting the right notes, treating the revelation with appropriate shock while also acknowledging that the attacker's grievances aren't entirely without merit. Looking at potential long-term booking, this feud could easily run through multiple premium live events depending on how WWE wants to structure it. The first match might not have a clean finish, necessitating a rematch with higher stakes. By the time these two finally settle their differences, you could be looking at 3 or 4 months of television and multiple pay-per-view encounters. That kind of extended storytelling requires careful planning and consistent character work to keep fans engaged throughout. The foundation has been laid well with the mystery and revelation, now it's about maintaining that momentum through the in-ring portion of the feud. CM Punk's promos following this revelation are going to be must-see television. The man is one of the best talkers in wrestling history, and you know he's going to have plenty to say about being attacked and about the person responsible. He'll likely cut promos that blur the line between character and reality, which has always been his specialty. The attacker will need to be able to match that intensity on the microphone, or at least present a compelling enough character that the contrast in promo styles works to their advantage. Some of the best feuds feature competitors with different approaches to cutting promos, creating a dynamic that keeps segments interesting and unpredictable. The physical presentation of both competitors in this feud matters as well. CM Punk needs to look like he's been through something traumatic but is now hungry for revenge. The attacker needs to look confident and unapologetic, fully committed to their actions. Ring gear, entrance music, and even small details like facial expressions during promos all contribute to telling the story. WWE's production values are top-notch, and you can bet they'll be using every tool at their disposal to make this feud look and feel important. Behind the scenes, this storyline represents a big opportunity for the creative team to show what they're capable of when they commit to long-term storytelling. WWE has been criticized in recent years for dropping storylines or making sudden changes that undermine previous weeks of television. This mystery and subsequent feud has been given time to breathe and develop naturally. If they can see it through to a satisfying conclusion, it will serve as a blueprint for how to book these kinds of angles in the future. Success here could lead to more ambitious storytelling down the line. The wrestling media has been covering this story extensively, with every dirt sheet and podcast dissecting the revelation and speculating about what comes next. This kind of outside attention helps WWE by keeping fans engaged even between shows. When people are reading articles and listening to podcasts about your storylines, that's free publicity and an indication that you've created something worth talking about. The conversation around this angle has been largely positive, which is exactly what WWE wants as they try to maintain momentum in an increasingly competitive wrestling landscape. Other companies are undoubtedly watching how this plays out as well. AEW, Impact, New Japan, and every other promotion pays attention to what works in WWE because wrestling is ultimately a shared space where successful